Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Today, we are diving into the fascinating story behind a captivating piece of art.
That's right.
It's John William Waterhouse's Hylas and the Nymphs.
This painting, it's more than just a pretty picture.
Yeah.
It really sparked a firestorm of debate
Yeah?
about art, censorship, how we portray gender, all kinds of things.
Exactly. And it gives us a glimpse into anxieties about female sexuality, even.
Oh, absolutely.
Power dynamics, all of that.
The power of feminine allure, which is
Yeah.
something that, we're still grappling with today, in a way.
Absolutely. So this is a piece that's really resonated even into the 21st century.
Definitely.
But before we get into all of that controversy, I think we should give everyone some context.
Yeah, good idea.
So who was Waterhouse? What was he all about?
So Waterhouse, he was a big deal in the late 19th century art scene.
Okay.
Known for these paintings just steeped in symbolism. And he was really inspired by classical mythology and literature. He was part of this movement, the Pre-Raphaelite movement.
Okay.
And they were all about capturing these artistic styles and sensibilities of, way back the early Renaissance. Think intricate details, vibrant colors, that fascination with nature, but always with like a hidden meaning,
So they were reviving the past, but in a way that spoke to their own time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where this whole thing with idealized beauty comes in, particularly female beauty. The Pre-Raphaelites, they were kind of obsessed with it.
I see where this is going.
Yeah.
So how does Hylas and the Nymphs fit into all of this?
Well, the painting, it shows us this scene from Greek mythology, the story of Hylas.
Okay.
He was this young guy, and he was with Hercules on the quest for the Golden Fleece.
Ah, yes.
And while he's out fetching water, he runs into a group of these, well, they're called naiads.
Naiads. Now, those aren't your friendly neighborhood welcome wagon, are they?
Not quite.
Okay.
They're these water nymphs, and they're known for their beauty and their voices. They'd use them to lure men, kind of, to their deaths.
A classic siren song.
Exactly, a classic siren song.
So we got Waterhouse.
Right.
He takes this ancient tale of, let's say, seduction.
Mm-hmm.
He sees it through his Pre-Raphaelite lens.
Yes.
And it becomes this, this visually stunning, and as we've said, maybe a little controversial piece of art.
Exactly. And it's those artistic choices, the way he interprets this myth, that really start to reveal the deeper meaning.
Okay.
And ultimately why it caused such a stir.
So we have this blend of mythology and like Victorian thoughts swirling around in this painting.
Right.
And then in 2018, things get really interesting. The Manchester Art Gallery, they've housed Hylas and the Nymphs for over a century.
Yeah.
And they decided to just take it off the wall.
Right.
Get this, not because of water damage, not because he needed restoration, but because of what it shows.
Yeah, this is where the story takes that fascinating turn, right?
Okay.
It was the height of the #MeToo movement. All these conversations about, how are women represented, not just in art, but in society as a whole.
So the curator saw this link between this 19th century painting and objectification and like the male gaze, all these modern issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The curator really wanted to get people talking.
Sure.
Make people think about those power dynamics in the artwork, especially with all the discussions we were having about consent, representation.
Right.
It was a powerful statement, even if it was temporary.
It was a bold move.
It was.
You don't see that every day.
No.
Taking a painting off the wall for those reasons. I can imagine people had some strong reactions.
Oh, absolutely. Immediately. And it was split,
Yeah.
Some people were like, yes, finally. They saw it as a powerful stance against objectifying women in art, even if it was from a different time. They felt it could reinforce harmful stereotypes, this idea that a woman's body is just something to be looked at, from a male perspective.
But I bet some people were not happy.
Right.
Crying censorship.
Oh, for sure. A good chunk of people saw it as this attack on artistic freedom, erasing history, silencing the past.
Yeah.
Their argument was, instead of hiding this potentially challenging art, we should be talking about it, understanding it within its historical context, having a dialogue.
It's a big question in art, isn't it? How do we balance the values of the past with our views today?
Absolutely. And it goes way beyond just this one painting, right?
Right.
It's Confederate statues, classic literature, the list goes on and on.
Right.
How do we engage with these complexities, even when they make us uncomfortable? Where's that line between, okay, this was a different time and this is harmful?
So big questions, no simple answers. What ultimately happened?
So after a week of intense debate back and forth. The gallery put the painting back up,
Okay.
temporary exile, but it sparked such a huge conversation.
Right, so it did what the curator probably wanted, got people talking and thinking.
It really brought to light this tension in galleries and museums. How do you preserve the past but also engage with the present?
Yeah.
Can museums be spaces for reflection and dialogue, where we can confront tough stuff but also appreciate art's power?
And it's interesting because, in a way, all that controversy probably made Hylas and the Nymphs even more famous. It's not just a beautiful painting anymore. It's about representation, censorship, what art even means in our society.
Exactly.
But let's move from the controversy. Look closer at the painting.
Okay.
What did Waterhouse actually paint that might have caused this reaction?
Right, yeah. There are these fascinating details,
Yeah.
and they really add layers to this whole thing. Remember we talked about those Pre-Raphaelites? Realism, nature.
Yeah, they love that stuff.
Waterhouse, he uses it all in Hylas and the Nymphs.
So all this detail, this Pre-Raphaelite style, how does it play into the controversy surrounding Hylas and the Nymphs?
Well, one thing that's really interesting is he includes this very specific water lily.
Okay.
It's called Nymphs lutea, and it's known for having this, intoxicating smell. It's a small thing, but it adds this whole other layer to the painting. It's like you're almost there,
It's like he's pulling us into the scene.
Yes.
Like you can smell the lilies, you can feel the humidity. It's
that atmosphere.
Yeah, almost hypnotic.
Exactly. And that feeling, that intoxicating beauty, it plays right into the myth.
Right, because the nymphs, they lured the men with their beauty, with their voices.
Yes, and Waterhouse, he doesn't just tell us they're beautiful.
Right.
He uses those lilies, the whole atmosphere, to make us feel it. Their allure.
It's subtle, but really effective.
Very much so.
And speaking of subtle, let's talk about Hylas for a second.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier he's kind of pushed off to the side, almost hard to notice.
Yeah, that's a really important detail.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of other paintings of this myth, Hylas is, front and center. He's strong. He's fighting back against the nymphs.
Yeah.
But Waterhouse, he does something different. He puts Hylas at the very edge of the canvas.
Okay.
He's small. He's almost passive compared to all those nymphs.
That's almost like he's flipping the myth on its head, right?
Exactly.
So instead of this big, strong hero falling to temptation,
Right.
it becomes more about the nymphs, about their power.
It's about their agency, yeah.
They're not just pretty faces, they're captivating, maybe even dangerous.
And it's not just the way Hylas is positioned either.
Oh.
Look at the nymphs' faces, their expressions. There's this knowing look. It's
Yeah.
almost unsettling, like,
They know what they're doing.
yes, and what are they thinking?
Yeah.
Waterhouse, he doesn't tell us.
Right. So we're left wondering, are they seductresses? Are they something else entirely?
Exactly. And that ambiguity, that's part of what makes this painting so captivating, even all these years later.
So we've got this beautiful painting, but it's also a reflection of the Victorian era, all those anxieties about women and power and desire.
Absolutely, but it's also timeless.
Yeah.
It still sparks debate.
Right. It makes us think about beauty, about power, about how we see gender, all of that.
It reminds us that art, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It reflects the time it was made, but it can still speak to us, challenge us, even make us uncomfortable.
And maybe that's the point of art, right? To start those conversations.
Exactly.
To give us a new perspective, make us ask questions, even if there aren't easy answers.
And that's what Hylas and the Nymphs does so well. It makes you think.
It does. So on that note, I think we'll leave everyone with the complexities of this piece. This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It really has.
But like you said, it sparks more questions than it answers, and I think that's a good thing.